Good evening from this part of the world. This is seven minutes past 7 from Sydney, Australia. The standing Tasmania nomination 2021. I will start with the program for this year, the planning program. I keep bringing this up so that we have an idea of what the immigration planning for the whole year is. The regional nomination, the regional places for this year is 11,200 places for the whole of Australia. And these 11,200 places have been shared among all the states. And you can imagine that the largest, the states that are largest, we get the bigger chunks of the number, states like New South Wales and Victoria. Then also territory nominated, we have 11,200 places, which is about minus 55%, less than that of last financial year. So to tell you that the number of places available for this financial year is really minimal compared to last year. Now, let me go to specific state now, the state in question, Tasmania. Tasmania, for this financial year, they only have 1,100 plus. That is 1,100 places compared to last year, where they had 1,919 patients allocated by the federal government. So as at January this year, more than 2,200 applications had been received for Tasmania nomination as at January this year. So according to the projection, it is likely that the nomination will increase to 3,500 applications. So 3,500 people will be competing with just 1,100 nominations places available. So what they've done is that they've prioritized the application nominations, the way they will nominate people. They've prioritized it. And that will lead me to the next slide, which I want you to pay attention to. This is the order of priority. Priority number 1 is those applicants that have occupations that are critical to Tasmania government. Critical employment, that have critical employment, largely health sector, allied health sector. When I mean health sector, I mean so the priority number 1 is those who are currently working in critical areas, largely health sectors, allied health, technology, infrastructure, engineering, with relevant skills assessment. In other words, if you are a nurse, working as a nurse, you are considered as, you will be considered in priority number 1. Not a nurse with skill assessment in other occupation. So that will not fly. So it has to be with relevant skill assessment. That's the priority number 1. Then second priority are those who are currently working in employments that are related to occupations on TSOL. TSOL means Tasmania Skill Occupation List. And who also have skills assessment in their respective occupations. So say, for example, welfare worker is on that list. So if you have skill assessment as a welfare worker, you are considered in under category, priority number 2. And this includes chefs and cooks. So if you are a chef and you have skill assessment as a chef, you are fine, you'll be considered under priority number 2. Then the top priorities who have skill employment at skill level between 1 and 3. Skill level 1 are professional occupations. Skill level 2 are semi-professionals. Then skill level 3 and so on and so forth. So skill level 1 occupation, mainly occupation that requires bachelor degree, minimum of bachelor degree. The skill level 2s are those occupations that require minimum advanced diploma or diploma. Then skill level 3 are certificate 4 occupations. So anyone who have skill employment in skill between under skill level 1 to 3 will be considered under priority number 3. Or business owners who are employing locals or making significant economic contribution to Tasmania, maybe business owners who have established businesses, maybe more than 100,000 worth business, and they've run that business for more than 6 months. And also employing locals. When I mean PR holders and Australians. Those other ones, they will also be considered under priority 3. Then priority 4 are the Tasmania graduates with strong prospects. They may not be employed, but they have prospects of employment in Tasmania. They are categorized under priority 3. Then the last but not the least, which is priority number 5, are all other eligible candidates, depending upon the likely contribution to economy, all others. You know, Tasmania is flexible with their requirements in the past. They were flexible in the past, but now because a lot of people are rushing to Tasmania, they've introduced this priority. So to say, look, the essence of this is to save people away. I mean, to reduce, because the number of places available is just 1,100 places for the whole financial year. So it's practically impossible for Tasmania to nominate everyone. And like I mentioned, as at January, they've received over 2,000 applications, which already more than the number of nominations available throughout the year. So they have to introduce this. And they've said the first priority are those who are working in critical employment, health sectors mainly, allied health, technology, infrastructure, engineering, with relevant skill assessment. So I don't need to, I'm trying to emphasize on this slide so that we will all see where we belong. Let me tell you, under priority 3, skill employment, and school level 1 and 3. For example, disability support worker is not a skill level 3 occupation. It's a skill level 4 occupation because it requires only certificate 3 to do the job. So it's a skilled level 4 occupation. So we need to be mindful of this. All other occupations, some other occupations like taxi driver, Uber driver, pizza delivery, you know, all those other occupations, they are not considered as skilled occupations. And they are not classified. So they will have to consider priority 1, 2, 3, 4 before all other occupations. So it's very important we pay attention to this. Now, what is the process like? The process of Tasmania nomination. The process, number one, they will not use all the quota at once. It will be spread throughout the year and with the aim of nominating the best candidates. So the 1,100 places, they will not use it all at once. They will spread them all over the year. What that means is maybe they might just be inviting 80 or less people per month, and then they will now put them under priority. Second point under this is that eligible candidates in the first two priorities will be nominated in an ongoing basis. So the first two priorities will be nominated, eligible candidates in those priorities will be nominated in an ongoing basis. That is, every now and then they do nomination, they will consider them. Then third point is periodically, other candidates will be nominated according to the places available at that time. So if places are no longer available, that shows for that particular month or whenever they want to do nomination, they will not consider others, other priorities. 4, care support workers, delivery drivers, I think I've mentioned this, warehouse workers, COVID security guards. They are valued and important, but not critical employment for the purposes of program. This information, we got it directly from the department that is in charge of nomination in Tasmania. This is directly from the state government. And I was privileged to be part of the session, the briefing. Now, let's look at some nomination categories. First, Tasmania graduates, subclass 491-190. We know that for you to be eligible as or to be considered as a Tasmania graduate under 190, you must have studied in Tasmania for 2 years, 2 full years. And you must be on site for the whole duration of your study. We'll still get to that. Then working in Tasmania, subclass 491-190, overseas applicant that have occupations in the skill occupation list it's only 491 that is available for them. Then overseas applicant with job offer, only 491. People overseas applicant who have families in Tasmania, 491 only. Small business owner, 491 only. Then there are other people they consider plus high caliber applicants. These are under 190. Let's start with high caliber consideration for 190. Who are those that are considered as high caliber candidates? Number one, they must be highly skilled, specialist positions. Normally, ANSCO skill level 1 or 2. ANSCO skill level 1 or 2 are professionals. Professionals such as sonographers, radiographers, engineers, maybe probably mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, and so on and so forth. So it's different occupations and ICT related occupations as well that are there on their list, and that have rare or unique skills that are in demand. There are skills that are in demand in Tasmania, which are highlighted in their TESOL. These skills are highlighted. as high in demand. So we will still get to that. Then specialist health, allied health skills or employment in health setting. Graduate with TESOL related skills, occupations, and that can demonstrate strong employment opportunities. Maybe Tasmania graduates, for example, social worker, and that has a job as a social worker, you are considered, if you study in Tasmania, you are considered as high caliber applicant. Employment directly related to nominated occupation. If you are working as maybe if you have a job, your occupation is social work, and you have a job as a social worker, you are considered as high caliber candidate. Or maybe a nurse, you work as a nurse. You are considered as high caliber candidate. Employed in skill area of high demand, and you have lived in Tasmania for 2 years or more, you are considered. So if your occupation is not in specialist, all these highly skilled occupations, but you have employment, for example, an accountant, okay, and you work as an accountant, you are considered, and you have lived there for 2 years, you are fine. Then if you have lived extensively in Tasmania for over 2.5 years, and with solid work, skill employment, you are fine. So you are considered as high caliber consideration. I think what Tasmania is trying to do, in essence, is they want people that are actually committed to Tasmania, that will be committed to Tasmania in the long run, not people that will get the PRs and then leave the state almost immediately, or people that will get 491 and leave Tasmania almost immediately. They are not looking for these people. So they're actually looking for people that will be committed to Tasmania. Because the truth is, once you get your 491 visa, you have liberty to leave for other states. There is no obligation, it's just an obligation, but there is no law that says you cannot live in another regional area. For example, you can decide to get Tasmania 491 visa and move to Canberra. Nobody will stop you, and it will not even impact your 191 visa when you are eligible for it. You are free to move to Northern Territory if you wish. You are free to move to Wollongong or Newcastle if you wish. So that's the reason why they are trying to get the best. When I say the best, I mean people that will stay in Tasmania. Now let's look at the criteria for Tasmania nomination under 190. The first category, Tasmania graduates. Of course, you must meet the department requirements and the required points. In other words, you must have 65, which includes the 5 points the state will be giving to you. The age requirement must be met, which is 45. And all the rest. You must have skill assessment. Then you must have completed a CRICOS registered course in Tasmania, and you must meet Australia's study requirement. We all know the Australia study requirement by now, that you must you must study for 2 years in Australia. So that one is non-negotiable. Then lived in the state for 2 years of study. Have reasonable prospects for skill employment in the next 2 to 3 years. They recently introduced career plan alongside with the nomination. When you are putting in your nomination application, you must also add career plan. How your current job will lead to maybe 2 to 3 years job in Tasmania, how your qualification or the course you study will help you to secure a job if you are not currently working, to secure a job in your field of study, in the course you study, or in the area where you study. You must justify. So they will check all these things before they nominate you for 190. Now, there are key changes for people who study before 1st of July 2021. That is, if you still commence your study now before 1st of July, the only change is that you have to include mandatory career plan for those who are not working in skill employment. You have to include it as part of your nomination application. I've mentioned this career plan. You have to include it. That's the only change. Then people that will be commencing study after 1st of July, they must study full-time in Tasmania for 2 years, full-time. You can't study from outside Tasmania, maybe 1 out of 2 years, study outside Tasmania and be considered. You must study full-time on campus in Tasmania. It's very important. Then, your course, I think we still get to that. Certificate 3 and 4 courses must be related to a priority industry training and workforce development area. We still get to that list. They have a list they've just come up with that includes some occupations and some courses, areas where they are considered as priority industry training and workforce development areas. So these occupations, if you want to study Certificate 3 or Certificate 4, study a course that is related to those occupations. That's my key advice. Don't go and study a course like leadership and advanced or whatever, leadership management, or any course that is not relevant to those courses if you are studying Certificate 3 and 4. Then all applicants who do not hold a student visa at the completion of their studies must study courses related to priority industry training and workforce development area. So what that means is that for those who are on graduate visa, postgraduate visa that are there in Tasmania, since you don't have student visa, so don't bother to study any course outside those priority industry training and workforce development area. The course you have to study must be on that list. This is very key. It's very key if you are not on a student visa. Now, training does not have to be related to skill assessment. For example, if you are an accountant, we know an accountant is not on the list, TSO list. However, if you study, maybe you study accounting from Sydney and you move to Tasmania, you can decide to study commercial cookery so that you can become a chef. Just for example, you may not necessarily use commercial cookery. I mean, you may not necessarily use chef skill assessment for your nomination. You can still use your skill assessment as an accountant. But then, if you have skill assessment as a chef, it is highly recommended. In fact, you stand a better chance than not having skill assessment. But if you don't have it, you will not still be disadvantaged so long you study the course that is related to priority industry training and workforce. I will show you the list as time goes on. If you had a student visa when you completed your course of study, the study must be degree, master's, diploma, advanced diploma, or graduate or graduate diploma, or qualification related to priority industry training and workforce. Don't do graduate certificate. You can see the graduate certificate is not there. It has to be degree, a master's, diploma, advanced diploma, or graduate diploma, or qualification related to priority industry training and workforce development area. So that is very key. That is, if you had a student visa when you completed your course of study. So your course must be degree. So I'm emphasizing on this so that we will not make mistakes. It's very important. Now, this is the priority industry training and workforce development area. I don't know if you can see it. The industry area, tourism and hospitality. Minimum qualification required is Certificate 3. Then plus current experience in industry in Tasmania, at least 6 months. So if you study Certificate 3 in tourism and hospitality, you must have experience, at least 6 months experience, or you have at least 12 months work experience in Australia. That 6 month experience is in Tasmania. Then if you say you had your experience in New South Wales or Queensland before moving to Tasmania, it has to be 12 months in the last 3 years. Industry experience can be substituted by in-training work placement, totaling a minimum of 360 hours. So it can be substituted. You know, some of these courses, they do have, placement component. So it's allowed. Now, building and construction is another area. And this is good for engineers. All right. Including civil construction, energy, and infrastructure. Anything that has to do with construction, energy, infrastructure, minimum of Certificate 4. And it has to be associated with infrastructure, civil drafting, and designing and energy. These are areas they have considered. All right. It has to be related to civil, designing, drafting, energy, and anything that has to do with roads. Then advanced manufacturing and energy, including maritime and defense manufacturing, Certificate 4. Then if you are studying anything that has to do with information and communication technology, it has to be degree or postgraduate degree. Very important. Then disability, age services, you need Certificate 3. And this includes diploma in nursing or allied health qualifications. Disability services, you need minimum Certificate 3. So this one does not have experience component. Disability services. So if you do, say, community service, community service, community disability, Certificate 3 is a disability, and you studied there for duration of the course, you live there for the entire duration of the course, you will be considered. Then under agriculture, certificate 4 minimum, aquaculture certificate 4, transport and logistics certificate 4 plus experience in Tasmania. So I want you to pay attention to this. You can this list is on their is on their website. You can go over it before making your choice of course that you want to study. Now let's look at Tasmania nomination criteria 190 on that category, working in Tasmania. For people working in Tasmania now, you must meet the department requirements. You must have worked in your nominated occupation for 6 months for at least 35 hours, full time. You must be working full time for 6 months. And when I say full time, it doesn't have to be one job. You could do multiple jobs, maybe part-time here. So long everything is, at the end of the day, it's up to 35 hours per week, you're fine. And your employment must be in an occupation listed on TSOL. TSOL is the Tasmania Skill Occupation List. You can have a look at the list. So your employment must be related to occupation there. There are several occupations on that list. Okay. And also, the employment must be in your nominated occupation. If I have social welfare worker is on that list, you must be working as a welfare worker. Community worker is on that list, you must be working as a community worker. Registered nurse is on that list, you must be working as a registered nurse, not anything else. The company must have operated for 12 months. The company you are working for must have operated. It can be a new company or a company that has operated for less than 12 months. It must have operated for more than 12 months. And also, and this other one, you and your dependents must currently be living in Tasmania. Your dependent cannot be outside Tasmania. You will not be nominated. So you and your dependent have to be living in Tasmania. I have written the Department of Growth to seek clarification, particularly on this scenario where a station whereby the main applicant is in Tasmania and has met the requirement of Tasmania, but the family are overseas, like international students, that would they be considered? Up to now, I've not gotten any feedback on that. So, and I want to believe that silence is a no. Because it's clear that you and your dependents must be living in Tasmania. The same thing applies to someone who is working in Tasmania and the family members are not in Tasmania. So such person will not be meeting that requirement. Generally, skill employments are considered as employments ANSCO skill level 1 to 3. I have mentioned this over and over again. Skill level 1s are professionals with minimum bachelor degree qualification. Then skill level 2 are advanced diploma and diplomas. Then while skill level 3 are certificate 4. Skill level 4 is certificate 3. Okay. If not in skill employment, you must provide a career plan explaining how your studies have increased your ability to find a skilled work in Tasmania. If you are not currently working, say you study accounting in Tasmania, but you are not working currently in Tasmania as an accountant, but rather you are working as a disability support worker, you have to provide a career plan. You explain how your studies in Tasmania have increased your ability to find a skilled work in Tasmania. That essay must not be more than 1 page. You have to research the job market thoroughly. Provide links between your Tasmania study and your plan. How your study has contributed or will boost your chance of getting a skill work in Tasmania. You have to provide that link. You have to also show how you have developed your networking in Tasmania, how you have established yourself, maybe friends you've made in Tasmania, maybe you've called Tasmania home. The essence of this is to, get the people that are committed to Tasmania to nominate them. And if you are employed, show how this employment will help you live permanently in Tasmania. That could be, well, I'm saving money in order to buy my house, to build my to buy my investment, my house, or to establish a business. You demonstrate that in your career plan. Then working in Tasmania, key changes now, which I've mentioned. If occupation was previously listed but now removed, only high caliber candidates will be considered in this regard for 190. Now, if working TESOL related positions should have the English requirements specified for that occupation in TESOL. So in TESOL, that is Tasmania Skill Occupation List, they have experience requirement, they have English mandatory requirements. So if it is mentioned there, that shows you have to meet that requirement, English requirements. Some may have proficiency in English, some may have competent in English. It minimum of 12 months contract with at least 3 months remaining at the time of your nomination application. For you to be considered as working in Tasmania, you must have worked there for 6 months. Okay, so 6 months, then plus guaranteed 3 months. So making 9 months altogether. You need that 9 months. You'll be eligible at 6 months, but you still need guarantee of 3 months before you can be nominated. And then your salary must be the same as that of Australian in Tasmania. So you must not be disadvantaged. It's a situation whereby people will have arrangement with employers that, look, I just need to meet this requirement at all costs. So I don't mind getting a cut in my salary just for me to get this nomination. This is what I need from you. I need this favor from you. It's not possible that way. You will not be nominated. Your employment benefit must be the same as Australians. If that employment benefit is, say, $35 per hour, it has to be $35 per hour. You can't get anything less than that. Then working in Tasmania now, ANSCO 4 and 5. ANSCO 4 and 5, Occupational Social Disability Support Worker, aged care worker, deliveries, warehouse worker, all other occupations that are classified under ANSCO 4 and 5. They are not eligible for Tasmania nomination. There is shortage of workforce to work as disability support. You are currently working, and it's not more than it's at least 50 kilometers from population center of 5,000 people. You can't say population center of less than 5,000 people. You will not be considered. It has to be more than 5,000 people to tell you the extent at which they've gone. All these requirements are just barriers, just to make sure that they reduce the number to the barest minimum. Then also, if this is not met, or it has to be associated with aged care and individual support work, support unit group 4233, nursing support and personal care workers. This is where aged cares and individual support workers come in. So even though you work as a support worker, you still stand a chance. Okay, you still stand a chance because they consider you as essential in a way. They consider you that you are important. Although generally speaking, you are not supposed to be nominated, but because you are in this sector, there is hope for you. So that is good news for people that are working in that sector. And I believe majority of people that are currently in Tasmania now or planning to move to Tasmania are working in this sector. So there is hope for you. Experience not available locally. So a situation whereby experience is not available locally in that community where you work, even though it's not, it's less than 5,000 people, but they could not find someone to take the job for a couple of months, and the employer can support you with this, you will be considered. And then evidence of prior related employment is provided. If you have previous experience or employment in this area, you will be considered. Now, Tasmania nomination criteria under 491 is similar to that of 190 that we've emphasized on as a graduate, or the difference is that you just have to study for 1 year instead of 2 years. Okay, you study for 1 year, and your study must be full-time and you must be on site. Okay, not that you live in New South Wales and you are studying in Tasmania. If you're studying for 1 year, you have to be there for 1 year. All right, and you and your dependent must be living in Tasmania, and you must provide evidence of ongoing commitment to Tasmania. Evidence of commitment to ongoing commitment to Tasmania. Maybe you've already gotten your driver license in Tasmania, you've bought your car, you established a business, you are planning to buy a house, you've been saving up for that. These are things you can use to prove that you are committed to Tasmania. Maybe your children are enrolled in school, and maybe your wife is taking a course, anything that can, convince them that you are committed. Then the key changes as well, similar to 190, you have to provide career plan for employment that started before 1st of July 2021. Then afterwards, employment after 1st of July 2021, then has to be full-time, on campus. You and your dependent must be living in Tasmania. All applicants who do not hold a student visa at the completion of their study must study courses related to priority industry training and workforce development area. We have mentioned that the training does not have to be related to skill employment, but a relevant skill assessment is recommended. All right. So, and if you had a student visa when you completed your course of study, the study has to be a degree, master's diploma, advanced diploma, or graduate diploma, or qualification related to priority industry training. So, I've captured this as well. Working in Tasmania is similar to working under 190, but the only difference is that your work can be in any occupation. Okay, you don't have to work as a social worker. You don't have to work as a social worker. You can decide to work as in other sectors. Okay, you are still fine. You will still be nominated. As an accountant, you can work in other fields, in other sector, in other sectors. You are fine. Okay, but your employment must be 35 hours per week minimum, and there must be you and your dependents must be living in Tasmania. The company must have operated for 12 months, similar to that of 190. Then if you took a job after 29th of January. The one I mentioned earlier on was before 29th of January this year. After 29th of January this year, then you have to pay attention to this. You can still work in any occupation for 6 months. The only difference is that the company must have operated for 12 months. And if employment is skill level 4 or 5, there must be justification from the employer. That's the key difference. There must be justification from your employer that they could not find a local person to take the job. And by now, you know what skill level 4 or 5 means. Warehouse worker, delivery, this disability support work is fine. Like I said, there is hope for people who work in that sector, in the sense that they will use other clauses to meet that requirement, which I mentioned earlier on. So now the key changes is that minimum of 12 month contracts with 3 months remaining at the time of your nomination. It has to be there. Okay. 12 months contract.
You know, that was when I was calling after hours to fix somebody that will come. But now they have not called and tell who's coming.
Mr. Mathias, can you meet? All right. Okay. Now, working in Tasmania, ASCO 4 and 5, not eligible unless those other conditions previously mentioned are met. Okay. And I've also mentioned them here, repeated them here. Employment must be ongoing for at least 6 months, reasonable career prospect, experience not available locally, evidence of prior related employment, working in aged care or individual support is fine, except this. Otherwise, it's not, such person is not eligible. Warehouse worker, you are not eligible if you are not if you do not meet this condition. These conditions. If you don't meet these conditions, you are not eligible to apply. Now, for overseas applicants now, because we've only dealt with people working in Tasmania, people studying in Tasmania. Now, let's look at overseas applicants for those who are overseas. If you don't have job offer, but you have an occupation on TISO, you can still be invited so long you've done your EOI. All right. If you've done your EOI, your occupation must be on the list, and you must have skill assessment for that occupation. But in honesty, it is not likely that this will happen in this financial year. The reason is obvious. Australia border at the moment is closed to international residents. So it is not applicable in this financial year. So most states at the moment are not, sponsoring or nominating anyone offshore. Recently, New South Wales did nomination, and they invited, somebody comment in our group mentioned they invited one of his clients overseas. We just told him straight away that, look, the person should not be too, should not be over happy, because the chances is there that it was a mistake. And then, because the application will still be submitted, they will scrutinize it, and eventually the person will likely will not be eventually invited. So this financial year ends on the 30th of June. Between now and 30th of June, there won't be overseas applicants in Australia, except people with global talent visas or specialized fields, maybe registered nurses who have experience and who have gotten their assessment done, can be nominated by the federal government. It's for 190, but for 491, no, 491 cannot happen in this financial year because they are still regarded as temporary provisional resident or international resident. So they can't come in. They are not permanent resident, but permanent resident can still come into Australia. All right. For those who have job offer in their nominated occupation from overseas, their occupation must be on the TESOL, and they must have the same, they earn the same pay as Australians. But like I mentioned earlier on, it's not likely in this financial year. Overseas applicants, family in Tasmania. If you have a family in Tasmania, you have potential for nomination, but not in this financial year. If you have an Australian citizen or PR holder and you meet those requirements, and you are living offshore, you must be living outside Australia. So you will be considered, but not in this financial year. Then for those who have small businesses in Tasmania, you must have operated for at least 6 months, and your business must be established before Tasmania can sponsor you. So that's for those who are planning to establish businesses in Tasmania. Now, my general advice as a wrap up, if you are studying in Tasmania, do it from day one. Particularly from 1st of July this year. If you intend to commence your study as from 1st of July this year, do it from day one. You must live and study in Tasmania from day one. The entire duration of your study must be in Tasmania. Then you and your dependents must be living in Tasmania. You should be living in Tasmania. Don't live elsewhere. Move to Tasmania. If you know that you want to relocate to Tasmania, don't go first and say, well, let my family join me later. Be there together right from day one. That, it shows that you are committed to Tasmania and they will consider you. There are things they will look at the end of, during the nomination process, the documents you have to submit, your bank statement. They want to see evidence of transactions. They want to see your driver license. They want to see your utility bills. They want to see, I know some of those things can be worked out, but for example, your bank transactions, it may be difficult to work such out. You can work out something else, but they will definitely know this. Don't say, well, they are not smart. They are. They are looking at all these things. Remember where we started from. The nomination places for this financial year is just 1,100 plus. All right. Study costs related to the occupation on TESOL or priority industry. If you are studying in Tasmania, or if you plan to study in Tasmania, make sure you study a course that is related to occupation on TESOL or priority industry list. Then seek for employment, skilled employment, not just any other employment, skilled employment in your nominated occupation. In your nominated occupation. I remember maybe about 2 years ago or so, when things were still a bit lenient particularly in Tasmania, a lady went to Tasmania, a Sri Lankan lady. She finished from Macquarie University here in Sydney. She did an MBA and she went to Tasmania to look for jobs. She was doubting. She was full of apprehension. She was, not settled in mind, but eventually I just had to encourage her that that's the only way you have to get your nomination. So she went there, and a few weeks after she called me. She said, she mailed me. She said, I got 2 jobs. She currently works in an IT firm in Hobart, and she works as a manager right from day one in an IT firm. So we say, well, there is no job in Tasmania. That has always been the stories. But people that go there, they have testimonies. Some of them do have testimony. If you are able to endure, you definitely get something. So seek for a job in your field. Then establish strong commitment to Tasmania. And lastly, don't shy away from seeking for a professional advice. It will save you a lot. It will save you heaps. And don't just seek professional advice from anyhow person. Seek from professionals who know what they are doing. Professionals who know what they are doing. Seek advice from them. And that concludes the session. Thank you.